All right, good evening, everybody. So, what would you say as a human being is the most dangerous weapon that you are naturally given the day you're born? The most dangerous weapon is what? What would you say? Okay. Your mouth, your mind, your brain, your heart, your mindset, words. Okay, cool. Any other thoughts? The most dangerous weapon you're given. Most dangerous weapon you're given. Your voice. Okay, cool. What's the most powerful weapon you're given? What's the most powerful weapon you're given? Love, brain, your heart, love, compassion, smile. Okay, cool. Positivity, the same. Okay. So in my opinion, the answer to both questions is the same answer, and it's our minds. Our minds are our most dangerous weapons. Our minds are also our most powerful weapons. Why are our minds the most dangerous weapons? Because our mind can take us into really dangerous places. And when our mind goes into dangerous places, we make dangerous choices. And I don't mean dangerous from the perspective of, putting ourselves into physical danger, although we're certainly capable of that as well. But when I talk about dangerous places, I mean some of those suffocating, debilitating, consuming, negative thoughts that we tell ourselves, to ourselves, things that we allow to go into our minds that nobody else is aware of, but we're fully aware of. And those thoughts and that mindset dictates our lives. What if I were to tell you, this might freak some of you out, but just stay with me here. What if I were to tell you that most of what you're experiencing in your life right now is because of a decision you made in your mind when you were anywhere between the ages of maybe 2 years old and 8 years old? What if I were to tell you that the majority of your life as you experience it right now, provided unless you're on the other side of the conversation or have begun that journey, which we're going to talk about tonight, your results right now are because of a mindset choice you made when you're anywhere from 2 to 8 years old. Now that's pretty crazy when you think about it, but here's how simple this works, okay? Here's how simple this works. Let's imagine for a moment that I'm a 4-year-old little boy, and my mom serves cupcakes for a little dessert, okay? Just a little cupcake for dessert. And I have the cupcake, and after I'm done having one cupcake, like any normal 4-year-old kid, I say, "Mommy, I want another cupcake." And my mom says, "You don't need to have another cupcake." Now, what is my mom really saying? My mom is saying things like, "I don't want you to get a stomach ache. Having that much sugar isn't good for you. I don't want you to be bouncing off the walls and keeping awake all night. I don't want you to have that much sugar in your body, right? I want to make sure that you're making good, healthy choices, and I want to teach you moderation." Drop a 1 in the chat box if it's fair to assume that that's probably what my mom was saying when she said, "You don't need another cupcake." Right? For those of you that are parents, you understand this conversation very well. But as a 4-year-old little boy, do I have the awareness to know that that's what my mom was saying to me? No. What I could have decided in that moment was that my mom was calling me fat. What I could have decided in that moment was that my mom didn't love me. What I could have decided in that moment was that my mom didn't think I was worthy of anything more, and so she took away what was left. And from that point forward in my life, I would go on, potentially, and my personal underlying story is a little different than the example I'm sharing, but it's a very simple cupcake analogy. I would go on to find ways to prove that I was right about not being lovable, not being worthy, and being fat. And so how would I go about doing that? Well, I'd put myself into unhealthy relationships. I would abuse myself with food. I would put on excess weight and say things like, I'm just big boned. I don't care, this, that, and the other. I want to live my life. And I'd be doing it as a form of abuse. I would purposely, not consciously, but unconsciously, but purposely, find ways to prove that I wasn't worthy of more. And how might I do that? I might make some money and then spend it as quickly as I get it. Why? Because I don't deserve more. Why don't I deserve more? Because a 4-year-old little boy decided that what his mom said meant this as opposed to this. Drop a 2 in the chat box if you've never even considered this as a possibility as to why you might have found yourself in certain experiences that you put in your life. Just drop a 2 in the chat box if it's kind of a new concept for you. And it's okay if it is. This idea that really at 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old, I decided to make this one comment mean something that then put me on a path for my entire life. And that's why our minds are the most dangerous things that we're given. However, our minds are also the most powerful things that we've ever been given. Because if I was a consciously, intellectually aware 4-year-old, which an emotionally intelligent 4-year-old, as a 4-year-old, I could have sat there and go, oh, wow, I'm so grateful to have a mom that loves me so much that she doesn't want me to get a tummy ache. I'm so grateful that my mom cares enough about me that she wants me to learn how to eat healthy. I'm so grateful that I'm so worthy of my mom's love and affection that she doesn't want me to risk cavities by eating too many sweets. But how many of you know a 4-year-old that has the ability to process that type of experience? I've never met one. So let me ask you a question. Now that you're an adult, or at least age-wise, you're an adult. In many ways, I'm still 4 years old for sure. Would you agree that now that you're an adult and you start to have an awareness around some of the meaning you might have given yourself as a child, that you also now have the power to reset that story and attach new meaning to the experiences you've had in your past and they're having now in your life? Just drop a 3 in the chat box if you understand and would agree that as an adult, you now have the ability to recognize some of the things that you gave meaning to in your past that have affected your present. But if you don't want them to continue to affect your future, you have to take power over your mind and start to decide and come to the realization of the very, very real fact that our minds are designed to do one thing and one thing only, and that's to give meaning to whatever it experiences. To give meaning to whatever it experiences, okay? Do me a favor, drop a 4 in the chat box if anyone today either drove in a car, rode a bike, or you were out in the city. Just drop a 4 in the chat box. Okay, now drop a 5 in the chat box if while you were walking in the city, driving through the city, or on your bike, you passed by a bunch of cars. Drop a 5 in the chat box if you saw a bunch of cars when you were driving. Okay. How many of you can tell me exactly how many red cars you passed? Weird. How many can tell me the exact number of trees that you passed? You don't know the number. What about buildings, houses, billboards, signs, other people? How many? You have no idea how many. You just know that you did. And why? Because the way the mind works is the mind takes something in. The mind takes something in, and then it moves something out. That's what perception is. It brings in an energy that experiences it. It brings in an energy that it experiences visually, and then it attaches or detaches from any kind of meaning. The reason you don't know how many black cars you passed, how many trees you passed, how many buildings you passed, or how many other people you passed today is because none of those things had any meaning in your life in that very moment. So you didn't stay stuck to them. Now, had you seen a black car that it was also at the same time yellow, red, green, purple, blue, and a whole bunch of different colors, you might say, to your partner or your kids when you got home, oh my God, I saw this amazing car. It was black and it was purple and it was red and it was green and it was all these different colors. It was so cool. Why did that one car stay trapped in your mind? Because you attached the idea and the meaning that you thought it was cool, it was unique, it was different. And you also attached the meaning to create the belief that your partner, your child, your friends, whoever it was, would also think that it was cool and special. And so you held on to that idea. And you gave all this meaning to this multicolored car. But you didn't care about any of the other cars. You didn't care about any of the other trees. You didn't care about the buildings. You didn't care about the people. Because you attached no meaning to those things. You just observed them. There's a tree, there's a car, there's a house, there's a person. And nothing stayed stuck. And that's how our minds are designed to operate. But do our minds operate like that all the time? Of course not. Why? Because we love to come back to that little story and assign meaning in our present to what happened in our past. So what do I mean by that? When somebody tells you no to getting started in the business or on the products, drop a 6 in the chat if it frustrates you. Just drop a 6. It's okay. And drop a 7 if you get a little deflated. Maybe you go 5 people in a row and no one says yes. Maybe you go 100 people in a row. And what starts to happen? What's the story we start to tell ourselves? I'm not good enough. Nobody wants to do this with me. I'm not smart. I don't deserve to be successful. I'm not handsome enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not fit enough. I'm not skinny enough. I'm not healthy enough. I'm not this enough. I'm not that enough. I'm not this enough. I'm not that enough. And who's actually saying that? 4-year-old little Zach who didn't get the cupcake. 4-year-old little Zach, when he gets rejected 5 to 7 to 8 to 9 to 10 times, says, see, I'm not lovable. See, I'm not smart. See, I'm not worthy. See, my mom was right. Maybe I should quit. And we attach meaning to things that have absolutely no meaning because we have an underlying story that says, I am blank, therefore I continue to experience blank. But the moment you come to an awareness of that story and you start to have a new conversation in today's mindset, guess what's going to start to happen? What do you think is going to start to happen? Do you think that you'll beat yourself up as much? Do you think you'll feel sorry for yourself? Do you think you'll get stuck? Do you think you'll take yourself out of action? Do you think you'll lay in bed all day with the covers over your head? Of course not. Why? Because what you'll do is you'll look at the no as a tree passing by. You look at someone on your team potentially quitting as one of the red cars. You'll have just have had another experience. But where we suffer as humans is we get really, really, really attached to the meaning of something that has absolutely no meaning other than the meaning that we give it. Drop a couple words in the chat box. How might your life change and how might you feel about your life if you stopped attaching so much meaning to things that really have no meaning whatsoever? Just drop a couple words in the chat box. How much do you think, what might be some of the emotions you experience more consistently? So I'll ask again, if I'm not holding on to trapped energy, if I'm not holding on to meaning that has absolutely no meaning, if I'm not holding on to all of the red cars that have passed me by today, how might I experience life? Calm, a lot of you are saying calm, peaceful, flow, belief, possibility, free, relieved, happier, free. I'm not even going to try and pronounce what that says, Jacqueline, but I'm sure it's a really powerful word. Less stress, easy, peace, zen. Mikey, can I get a translation on that, bud? Peaceful, okay? Safe, happy, less stress. Okay. Now, let me ask you another question. If you're showing up loved and peaceful and calm and happy and joyful and stress-free and grounded and humble and honest and transparent and authentic and vulnerable and excited and joyful, if you're showing up in that way, what types of people do you think are going to come into your life? The same kinds of people. And guess the types of people who are not going to come into your life. chaotic, frantic, angry, scared, broke mindset, lazy, victim stories, suddenly they're not going to come into your world. Why? Because what you'll have done, as crazy as this might sound, is you change the radio station and you're no longer listening to the same song as them. You change the radio station, you're no longer listening to the same song. And because you're not listening to the same song, they don't come into the bar where you're dancing. And why don't they come into the bar where you're dancing? Because to them, that sounds like crazy, terrible music. Oh, that's horrible. Joyful, calm, peaceful, loving, confident? No way. No way. I'm not going into that room. I'm not going into that bar. I don't want to party with those people. Why don't I want to go party with those people? Because if I go party with those people, then I won't ever be able to tell the story anymore of not being lovable, not being worthy, not being deserving. Do you see the fine line? Drop an 8 in the chat box. Do you see the fine line between thriving and suffering in life? That's it. It's that fine line. It's like this. It's razor thin. It's razor thin. And it's a tightrope that we walk on every single moment of every single day, depending on the meaning that we attach to the things that we experience. What? Right now, I'm making it mean that Eden doesn't respect my time because I'm doing this training and she walked into the room. Okay, of course it doesn't mean that. But could I make it mean that? Think about that for a moment. This is perfect. This is perfect that just happened. If I was someone who ran victim energy, who had a story that nobody respects me, who had a story that I do everything for everyone else and no one thinks about me, if I ran that story constantly, guess who's getting in a fight with their wife after this call? But does it have any meaning that she walked in the room? Does it mean that she doesn't respect me? Does it mean she doesn't care? Of course not. What does it actually mean? It means that she's looking for her computer and she thought it was in here and she forgot that I was on the call, and that is all that it means. But we want to go to war. We want to go to war. We want to fight to be right so that we can prove that we're not respected, so that we can prove that we're not lovable. We rehearsed it for a couple of days. It was good timing, right? No. But that's the fine line, what you just saw. Breakdowns in relationships, romantic relationships, business relationships, friendships, parent-teacher, student-teacher. The breakdowns happen because we experience moments like that. And all that just happened in my world, all that actually just happened was a car drove by. That's it. But if I was really committed to having the story of attaching meaning to the idea that nobody respects me, or Eden doesn't respect me, or she's emasculating me, or blah, 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 any kind of ridiculous story I can attach to that, we're getting in a fight after this call. But because I've worked my ass off and continue to work my ass off, and I would encourage you to work your ass off on reframing that story, I'm calm, I'm peaceful, I'm loving, I'm open, and I have perspective. And I have a perspective that's very simple for me to observe the situation and say, cool, she just couldn't find her computer. And if I'm willing to get out of my own ego and get out of my own way and exhibit love, ultimately, I want to create an experience of both and. Meaning, I can hold love for wanting to help my wife find something that she's looking for and continue to deliver this training to you. So your mind has the power to put you into any kind of energetic state that you choose to enter into in any given moment, in any given situation. And you have to work at it. You have to work at it. But what I can assure you is that when you stop giving meaning to meaningless things and you stop fighting to be right about absolute bullshit, and when you stop holding on for dear life to how you think something should have been or should be or should go, you'll experience a new kind of internal freedom that no one can ever take away from you. And that's real freedom. Because I know plenty of people, hear this one loud and clear, who are very financially successful and who suffer terribly emotionally, riddled with anxiety, riddled with depression. All the money in the world won't take it away. Why? Because they're so attached to the story that says, I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, nobody respects me, I'm not going to let people walk all over me. Rah, 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 rah. Fine, you be right. That's real freedom. That's real freedom. Money in your life, cars in your life, houses in your life, relationships in your life, you're all mature and old enough to understand what I'm about to say. Everything comes and goes. It comes in seasons, it comes in cycles. But who you choose to operate as in the world is going to determine your ability to move through some of those more difficult moments. Your emotional intelligence, your ability to evaluate a situation and say, wait a minute, is that a car or is that a car accident? Are two very different things. And even if it's a car accident, how much time do you want to spend blaming the other person? How much time do you want to spend criticizing how they were driving or what your partner should have told you or why the GPS didn't tell you to do whatever it is? How much time do you want to stay stuck in that moment? How much time do you want to let all those cars stay trapped in your head? Because imagine if you couldn't process all those cars that you saw today out of your mind. Do you know how you'd go crazy? You'd actually go crazy. If your mind didn't have the ability to move those cars that you saw today out of your mind, and all you could think about was red cars, red cars, red cars, red cars, they'd put you in a hospital. You'd put you in a hospital. And we laugh about the example, but guess what? Millions of people live their lives stuck in a loop because they're unwilling to let go of the meaning that they attached to certain events that happened within their lives. They stay stuck in a loop and all they see is red cars driving around and around and around and around. And no matter how many people tell them there are no red cars, it doesn't matter because they have to be right about how many red cars there are. So I just want you to start to take some inventory as you mature into business ownership, as you mature into going out on your own in this capacity, as you mature into influence, as you mature into leadership, and you really begin to express who you are as a human being, as you begin to do those things, just take moments. Just take moments when something's not going your way and ask, what's the meaning that I'm attaching to this right now? And what else could I make it mean? What is the meaning that I'm attaching to it right now is the dangerous thought. What else could I make it mean is the powerful thought. And that's the razor thin line. So I'm going to post in the groups, what did you learn? I hope that you'll contribute to that post and that thread in both groups so other people might see a point that they missed. I hope this was valuable for you. Have an amazing evening, sleep well, and we'll talk to you all soon. Good night, everybody.